I'm back out here with the Eachine mini Cessna. You'll notice I don't have my spinner on there anymore, my little foam spinner, because I nosed it in and broke the prop. So I had to put my spare prop on it. But anyway, I made one more adjustment to the plane. I did some mechanical adjustment on the ailerons and the elevator. And I also added an additional 0.48 grams of nose weight, because the last time I had it out, it still seemed ever so slightly nose heavy. So right now my CG is between 32 to 33 millimeters from the leading edge. Okay, I'm going to launch it in beginner mode. So let's go ahead and get it in the air. Launching. And got a little more wind out here this morning. It's 4 to 6. And every once in a while it feels like it's kicking up to about 7. That's going upwind. Now, getting a little breezy on here. Okay. So, let's switch it into intermediate mode here and see what the nose does. Gain a little altitude. Alright, that's intermediate mode. It looked like it climbed ever so slightly there, but not like it was before. Yeah, so I think I like that balance a little bit better. You know, before I was having to nudge the elevator down from time to time. Okay, so we got it in intermediate mode. Okay, so now let's see what it does. Gain some altitude. When I put it in expert mode, it didn't seem to flinch, did it? So I think my mechanical trim during this flight session is better than it was last session. Alright, so I wanted to see something here in expert mode. Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't think expert mode on this plane is a full manual mode. I had full left stick deflection on the aileron there, and it barely rotated. I'm going to put it back in beginner mode. So the gyro in expert mode still seems to be active. At least that's my opinion. Even if the roll rate was very slow, it would rotate at a steady pace, and I had full left stick deflection and the roll axis on the ailerons, and I could barely get any angle out of it there. So that tells me that the gyro is interfering in expert mode. So there's not, in my opinion, there's not a true full manual mode on this plane. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. But the balance at 32 to 33 millimeters from the leading edge does seem a lot better. When I switched from beginner mode to intermediate mode, it didn't nose up like it was. When I switched from intermediate mode to expert mode, it seemed to stay right there. I didn't even see it twitch when I put it into expert mode from intermediate. So I think that the balance and the mechanical trim are much better now than they were. the last session. So I like that additional 0.48 grams of nose weight. So after removing the tail wheel and putting on the little tail skid, I ended up with 0.96 grams of weight on the nose, which increased the all-up weight of the plane by 0.48 grams. So I can live with that. If you have the tail wheel in place, then you might find out that you need to put about 2 grams of nose weight on the plane, but that's not a significant amount of weight given the fact that the all-up weight on the plane as stock was like 88.2 grams. So I don't think having to put a couple of grams of nose weight on the plane to get it balanced at 32 to 33, 32 to 33 millimeters is going to hurt you at all. Yeah. Yeah, wind's died down a bit. But it seems pretty darn smooth in beginner mode. Elevator's still a little twitchy in intermediate mode, and the fact that the gyro is interfering with it in expert mode, I don't care for expert mode at all, to tell you the truth. But it's a fun little plane. It's pretty darn stable. It has pretty good flight characteristics in beginner mode. I can't complain about it. So after this flight, I will meet you back at the hangar. And I'll give you my conclusion on this plane. And then I'll see if I can get it bound up with the TX16S, Radiomaster TX16S, before I bring it back out again. And we'll see how well it handles with a hobby grade transmitter compared to the stock transmitter. But flies pretty well in beginner mode, doesn't it? That's a pretty tight turn there. Yeah, that spins around pretty well. Okay, I don't know how long I've had it in the air. So let's bring it back around and land it on this dirt road into the wind. If we can, and get the sun to my back here. And let's go one more circuit. And get out of the way. Not too bad. All right. So, now that I've tested out the balance on this plane again, and I'm pretty certain that expert mode is not full manual mode, and tested the balance in intermediate, expert, and beginner, I'm pretty happy with the balance on it now, and I'm pretty happy with the mechanical trim on it. So I didn't have to put any trim into the radio this time, so that was great. Alright, so I will meet you back at the hangar. So that was a lot of fun out there today, except for having to replace my prop because I nosed it in, running out of talent. But I want to thank the Oz Tree Crasher for giving me protocol information for this plane. Apparently, this plane uses the same protocol as the Eachine Mini Wing Dragon. It may very well be the exact same gyro brick that they have in there. So, and if I remember correctly, on the Mini Wing Dragon, you did not have full manual mode in expert mode, and this plane is no different. So I'm not so sure that there's an issue with the ailerons. I think that the primary issue, but there may well be, they may not have enough deflection with the stock transmitter on the ailerons to perform decent rolls, but there's no way to test that out because there's not a true manual mode on this plane.
which is unfortunate because I would really like to see full manual mode on all of these planes, regardless of whether or not they have a gyro. But in full manual mode, I was so limited. The gyro was limiting the angle of the ailerons, because even if it was a slow roll, it would have been a constant roll. You know, it wouldn't start to roll and then just stop. So I'm convinced that the onboard gyro is active in expert mode, and it is limiting the ailerons. It doesn't seem to be limiting the rudder or the elevator, but it is limiting the ailerons. I don't understand that, but that's the way it is. So my conclusion on this plane, it's pretty rock solid in beginner mode, and it's a lot of fun to fly. Even after softening up the elevator, it's a little twitchy. Of course, all of them are with the stock transmitter, because you can't put any expo in. It's a little twitchy in the elevator and the pitch axis, but you can get used to that. You just got to be softer in intermediate mode with the elevator than you are in beginner mode. It's fairly aerobatic. I mean, you can do loops with it. It has an adequate amount of power to pull through loops in intermediate gyro mode. You saw how tight of spins I could do with the plane in beginner mode. So it's a very maneuverable, very stable plane in beginner and intermediate gyro mode, especially in beginner mode. And you can do return to target maneuvers with it too in beginner mode. Also, I did fly it through an entire battery pack, and I noticed that the plane started losing power when the battery got too low, and then the battery alarm came on the transmitter, so that does work. Now, I was able to detect it just from flying it before the alarm went off on the transmitter, but it's nice that the transmitter will warn you when the battery gets low, so you can land it without pulling your battery down too low. Other than that, I mean, it's a very nice flying plane. I did use the protocol information provided to me by the Oz Tree Crasher. I did bind up with my TX16S to this plane. Everything is working, but I only have it in gyro mode. You know, I set up my gyro settings according to the protocol information. The gyro settings are supposed to be on channel 5, you know, minus 100, 0, plus 100. I even tried increasing those, and nothing I did would allow me to get this in all three modes on the gyro: beginner, intermediate, and expert. So it looks like with the TX16S it's stuck in beginner mode, but that's fine. The hobby grade transmitter is going to give you so much more resolution and so much more control over this plane than the stock transmitter. But I wanted to make you aware that I did download and install the latest stable version of the multi-module firmware, thinking that, you know, because I was a couple revisions back, so I thought, well, maybe that's the reason I'm not getting the gyro settings to work. But even after doing that, the gyro settings were still not working on channel 5, which I believe is what's stated for the Eachine Mini Wing Dragon. So that did not work, and I don't think that worked on the Eachine Mini Wing Dragon either. So hopefully multi-module gurus can get that working fairly quickly. I'll have to send them a message and say if there's something special that I need to do to get that working that's not in the documentation for the protocol. I don't know, but I'll try and find out. But if you're looking for a plane that will fly in full manual mode, this plane is not for you. If you're looking for a very good, that was my phone, sorry about that. If you're looking for a very fun flying, stable plane in gyro mode and beginner and intermediate, then this is a fun little plane to have. And I like the fact that it's a little bit bigger than the other micros that I have. You know, it's almost, I think it's a 21.5, almost 22-inch wingspan. So I think this plane would make a good 2S brushless conversion plane in the future. If I have time to do that, I may very well do that. But anyway, that's my conclusion on this plane. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.